Rachel Maddow chimed in on the results of the Iowa caucus, in which Donald Trump won by a resounding 30 points, finishing, of course, with 51% of the vote to DeSantis' 21 to Nikki Haley's 19. It was a predictably bad night on MSNBC. So here's Rachel Maddow breaking down the results a bit.
Sure, takeaway from that, and I don't mean to be, again, too dark, as you said, on this, but it is not, if we are worried about the rise of authoritarianism in this country, we are worried about potential rise of fascism in this country. If we're worried about our democracy falling to an authoritarian and potentially fascist form of government, the leader who is trying to do that is part of that equation. But people wanting that is a much bigger part of that equation. Right. And the American electorate is made up of two major parties. One of those parties has been flirting with extremism on the ultra-right for a very long time. They've brought them in a way that they haven't been central to Republican electoral politics ever before, and I know because I've been studying this.
And the other major party was supposed to have an Iowa caucus tonight, but they canceled them because last year they lost the votes when it came time to count them. Why did they lose the votes? Because the app that was engineered in part by the campaign team of the contending candidate, Pete Buttigieg, malfunctioned. And that same campaign team, by the way, had the poll of record, the most reputable poll in all of primary politics nationwide, the Des Moines Register poll. He had that poll spiked due to a, quote, procedural complaint.
They called the manager.
That's the pro-Democratic Party. That's the real Democratic small d party that was supposed to have these tonight, but they couldn't because they were illegitimately held last time.
Yeah, well, this is the same party that is striking the candidates, such as they are. We're not fans of anybody running, but hey, they got a right to run. And the Democratic Party is not extending that right to them. Now, it's hard for us to feel sorry for them because we've said from the beginning, what part of the DNC walking into a court and saying we have the right to pick the candidates in a back room smoking cigars if we want to, did you not understand?
Of course.
They made their position quite clear that in the end, they will pick the candidate, not the voters. So what were you thinking?
Right.
But once you have radicalized one major party so that those are the preferences of the people who adhere to your party, the leader is interchangeable. And yes, Trumpism is sometimes what we call it. MAGA movement is probably a better way to do it. But there is an authoritarian movement inside Republican politics that isn't being bamboozled by Trump. They are pushing Trump to get more and more extreme because the more extreme things he says, the more they adhere to him. And that is coming from a very large proportion of the American right that adheres to the Republican Party. And that's why this is a Republican Party problem more than it is the problem of one man and his leader.
But it is an example of democracy in action, is it not? Like if the voters are pushing a candidate in a direction and he's responding and they're to them and they're rewarding him with their votes, isn't that democracy in action? That sounds a lot more like democracy in action than here it is, 11:30 at night. We think Bernie and Pete are running pretty close, but we don't have any votes. No votes to report. What? That's democratic? But look, this is why Maddow gets the big bucks. This is why she is indispensable on that network. Because Maddow, more than anyone else, delivers the core brands of MSNBC and of liberal media in general. What she just did there is she reassured her audience that they are better than the Trump voters because they watch her. That's what liberal media is designed to do. That's what they're actually selling. That is the product. The product is not news. The product is not insight. The product is not enlightenment. The product is self-satisfaction. Right. They are there to stroke the audience, to make the audience feel like they are in the know, they are in the in crowd because they watch them, or in the case of the New York Times, because they read their paper. That's the product. And there's no one better at delivering that product than Rachel Maddow. She does that better than anyone in the business.
Yep. She's very slick. She's very smart. And yeah, I mean, it's all about being seen, having those opinions. You know, this is, it's a little bit of a tangent, but it's definitely related. So, Disney just dropped like the ultimate box checking show, as some would have it, Echo, where the protagonist is deaf, an amputee, and Native American. You can't make this up. And I cannot tell you how many people I've seen, and this show's terrible. I can't tell you how many people I've seen make a point of posting on social media about how much they love the show. Why? To be seen talking about how much you like that show, right? There's no other reason. I mean, when they dropped Hawkeye, you didn't see all these people feeling a need to tell you what they thought about that. It's the same thing across. It's all kind of one brand. It's all kind of one outlook in some respects, literally, because Disney owns ABC, which doesn't really have any different news desk than MSNBC, just not as successful at it. For people to whom this appeals, they listen to Rachel Maddow, they listen to Joy Reid, they listen to Chris Hayes, they listen to all these goons to get their marching orders and talking points. These are the things that when you go to work on Monday, you're going to repeat what you heard here. Yeah, no, it's these white evangelicals are really afraid that they're losing their primacy, and they think Trump's going to give that back to them, and they talk as if they're thinking and not just repeating.
Yep. Now, Maddow did want to lighten the mood a bit as the evening went on, and so she did bring up that Trump is likely to be thrown in jail. And this next piece is in response to the data points that we talked about earlier in the live stream. But I will put this up on the screen once more, just for this segment. If Donald Trump were to be convicted of a crime, would you consider him fit to be president? And you had 65% of voters responded, yes, he is fit to be president, even if he's convicted. She is now giving her take on that piece of exit polling data.
This means that of people turning out to caucus in Iowa, a third of them think that if Donald Trump is convicted, he is not fit to be president. In this incredibly conservative electorate where Trump is going to run away with the Iowa caucuses by a mile and then some, still a third of that electorate says if he's convicted, they're going to nominate him nationwide? Yeah. When even a third of Iowa caucus goers say no?
That's not quite what they said. They didn't say, if he's convicted, if he's convicted, he's not fit to be president. That's all that means. That doesn't mean they still won't vote for him over Joe Biden. When Trump won in 2016, 17% of Trump's voters said he's not fit to be president. Exactly. 1 in 5 Trump voters in 2016 said they'd still vote for him. So it's not It just means, we don't think he really belongs there, but he still belongs there more than Joe Biden, according to most of those voters. I promise you that.
Well, and this is part of why, and I can say this as a recovering Democrat, when you watch that kind of media, it's always Lucy and the football, because they have to give you a carrot. It can't be all stick, right? So it's they're always dangling. Oh well. Hey, no, the good guys are going to win this time. Your team's going to win because this. And then when it doesn't happen, then they shift the narrative over to what forces of evil did to cause it not to go that way. And this is why now we have to do this, right? It's just that constant two-step when you watch this kind of media. It's just that constant dance between do this so that good will triumph, and then when it doesn't, oh, well, it's because of this. So now you have to do this. You're just constantly manipulated into following a soap opera. I mean, it's basically a soap opera. Oh, what's going to happen to Susan Lucci tomorrow? I mean, that's what this is.
Please clap.